This is a real simple video on a real simple modification. A lot of people are wearing these things. They cost about 50 or 75 cents when you buy a big old box of them. They're incredibly boring, and frankly I think that we can terrify them up a little bit. It's really easy. It's nothing that's outside of anybody's particular skill set, so this video is mostly just to make you aware of the possibilities and maybe talk about how I might make one. So we're going to get started. Got your blank mask here. Personally, I like to do messages, so I'm going to put a message on my mask. There's a couple of ways that we can do this. Start with the old tried and true. Got my acrylic paint. And we can just write a message up here on the top where it's going to be, because here's our nose thing. So basically this is where it's going to be legible. I'm going to go with a tried and true standby. It's a little bit ironic, a little bit of a statement. Whenever you hear your significant other say, "I'm fine," you know that you are in trouble. Now there's all kinds of ways that you could make this all kinds of pretty, but that kind of defeats the purpose of this particular project, right? That's one way. Got my clean water over here. So is acrylics. This is some of my dye. I really like the dye because whereas acrylic is basically a plastic, which isn't that big of a problem, the dye colors the fabric or the material and it doesn't block anything. So if you're worried about air restrictions or whatnot, I feel like dye is a better option. Don't want to get too much. I like to start with the message. I could see an argument for doing the distressing of the mask first. Certainly there's a chance that you could get stuff on it as you progress, but I like to know what I'm working around, so I'm going to start with this. Just like every video that I ever do, this isn't necessarily how you should do it, this is just how I did it. We got a couple of different ways to approach our "I'm fine" mask. Now that I've got some dye in here already, I like the red dye. I like being able to mix it with a little water and then get some splats. So how much you want to splatter this up depends entirely on how obvious you want to make it. We're not doing subtle today. Something you can do with a relatively thin brush like the one that I have, really get some dye on there, and then you can kind of track it out so it looks kind of like what people expect a blood splatter to look like. As we all know, you never want reality to get in the way of a good visual, right? So it's much better for any blood to look the way people think it should look than it is for it to be accurate to the way it actually happened. If you want to, find a relatively stiff brush and you could do some actual splatter. Again, we're not really going for subtle here. Go ahead and do something similar on the other one. You can definitely use acrylic paint. This is a infrared. It's a color that I mixed up myself. Kind of puce color. I took some various reds and I mixed them up to look more like dried blood. So the problem with dried blood is that it's not what people really think dried blood looks like. That's why you see masks and decorations and stuff on Halloween and they have crazy ketchup red blood on them. Nobody really cares what real dried blood looks like, and I'm not going to be any exception here. I'm putting some of my infrared down as a base on the right side, but I'm going to add some brighter red, and that's going to read a lot better as blood to most people. And if they happen to know the difference between dried blood and fresh blood, then maybe it tells kind of a story that maybe this mask has been used just a few times too many. Part of the beauty is that it doesn't take long to make these. They're cheap. I know that people are using these masks out of the box, and they're probably using it all day, or they're using it for multiple days, regardless of how you're supposed to use them. If you are one of the people who wants to change these more frequently, then this isn't going to cost you a great deal of money. Can't really go wrong with bloody fingerprints, am I right? Okay, so we're getting some blood stains on this, and I'm going to go ahead and put that over there. This has had a minute to kind of set up. The acrylic paint, especially when you're outside like I am and it's about 100 and something degrees, it dries up fairly quickly. The ink or the dye, it also dries pretty fast, but not quite as fast as the acrylics do. So I've got my kind of blood splatter, and I said I was going to go for something else with this one. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this green and mix it in. It's going to give me kind of a greenish, brownish, fairly nasty color. That's more or less where my nose is going to be. So I'm going to give it some horrifying, like I sneezed through the mask kind of splotches. It's important that they drip, so we got to have it dripping down. So we could probably stop right there, and that would probably be fine. But I don't think I will. I think what I'll do is I'll make some really weak green and kind of muck it up a little bit over here on the sides. Maybe a contrasting color. I'm not really concerned about how it mixes. I need it to be a little contrasty. So that's what I'm doing here. I mean, seriously, what kind of fluids are green and yellow? You can see that I can kind of go right over the letters just real lightly with this, and it's not damaging the letters. Sometimes that gets to be a problem, especially if they're not dry and you get some wet paint on there and it streaks them out. But if that happens, I find that you can just go over it again. And if you really have to, you can just take some white paint and you can just outline it. I mean, we're not going for subtle, and we're not going for real. We're making a statement. And the statement is, I'm fine. Yeah, this has all gone to hell. My mask looks like it's been through hell. But I'm fine. Why do you ask? I'm going to go ahead, pop a little bit of black into this one. Make that real thin. Dirty it up a little bit. I feel like this one's pretty well done. I could do more, of course, but it would really start to muddy up rather than just look gross, and gross is what I'm going for. Put that over here. Take this one. I'm going to gray up the bottom here specifically. I kind of like my bloody handprint, so I think I'm going to leave that more or less untouched and go with just a little of this kind of nasty yellow-green. Where did it come from? Where is it going? I don't know. I don't know what it is even supposed to be. Bile, maybe? Vomit. If that's snot, then you really need to see a doctor. So with this one, I'm just going to add a few more blood spots. Going to go with a bright red. Going to add a few spots. Do a little splatter on this one too. Probably don't want to wear your best shirt when you're doing this. But that doesn't mean I don't like my shirt. I just need a shirt where bloodstains will only add character and not destroy its value. Alright, so these are the two masks that we ended up with. Doesn't take much in the way of skill or imagination. You don't have to do a message, or you could put maybe a more aggressive one. Whatever you like. Whatever you like. I think that's about it for today. This is Dry Rot, signing off.